All right, welcome back to your viewers and fellow watchmen. Today I'm going to do video number 3 on my series on designing your campaign. The game master is the game designer. Uh, we've been talking about the baptism of your game, the things that you're thinking about that goes into what you're going to run for your players, and sort of that spirit of creativity that kind of goes into it. And that's something I obviously encourage. And today we're going to talk about the Appendix N and what your Appendix N is. But before we get into that, I have a few housekeeping things I want to get into. So this is obviously available. You can get it at Lulu physical copy. You can go to the Red Room and get PDFs. The link initially to Lulu was a little weird and didn't work. Lulu's search function is not great. So I have linked in the description actually to my author creator page, and you'll be able to find the stuff that I publish on Lulu right there, including this. $20, $19.99. You get monsters, new character class, some options for your Wretched Country games and your Wretched Epic games. So check it out. And I've said this a couple times, but it's official. I'm going to be phasing out the actual plays. It's becoming too much of a hassle, and as I said many moons ago, the moment this stops being fun is the moment I stop doing it. And as much as I like talking to you guys and whatnot, I prefer that at this point. We're still going to be running games behind the scenes. Might do the occasional one shot for the channel, but I'll once I wrap up this campaign, Lamentations of Elemental Evil, I'm not going to be doing actual plays anymore. Yeah, so it is what it is. Now, let's get on to the main topic, the one that I think is more interesting than my trials and tribulations with actual plays. So, the Appendix N. What is your Appendix N? Broadly speaking, for me, the Appendix N is that stuff, that media that influences you. For those of you who are not familiar with what the Appendix N is, I think most of you probably are, but those who aren't, when you look into the appendices of the first edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Dungeon Master's Guide by Gary Gygax, Appendix N is a list of all the pulp authors, fantasy and sci-fi authors, even some horror, that influenced the game. And when you read between the lines of the AD&D rules and take a look at the kinds of things that you can encounter, do, you there's an implied setting, and that's where it's all derived. That Appendix N material. I would encourage you, if you've never read any of the Appendix N authors, to do so. Some of them are really good. Some of them are like, I don't know. My personal favorite right now is Poul Anderson. H.P. Lovecraft is one of the Appendix N authors as well, and I just love Lovecraft, and I've loved Lovecraft for a long time. But Poul Anderson was a treat to kind of discover. I'm a big fan of the High Crusade, but I think if you're into standard D&D, you got to read Three Hearts, Three Lions. It's a great book, and it is a D&D adventure. There's some other ones, like I'm reading the Book of Swords trilogy. I finished book 1 by Saberhagen. Not my favorite author, but not terrible. And then there's, I always get his name wrong, Philip Jose Farmer. Sorry, Francis, I don't know where I got that from. The Lava Light World is one of the books on the Appendix N. Not a fan. I'm just not. I read somewhere that a lot of the pulp authors got paid by the word, so they tend to be verbose. And this one is literally about the main characters are running for like the entire book. They're just running through this world that's constantly changing by the immortals that control it, which is a cool concept. But like I think 50 pages could have been taken out of that book, and it would have been the same thing. But anyway, point being, strongly recommend you check out the Appendix N authors. Another good one, of course, is Jack Vance Dying Earth. So, so yeah, that is the Appendix N, and that influenced and informed the game design and the choices that Gygax and Arneson made when they were designing D&D. And I submit to you what's going on is for you as a game master is you have your own Appendix N. The things that are been swimming in the back of your head, influencing some of your game decisions, whether it's like a character idea, a nation, a dungeon, some location, some weird magic item, all that stuff that you've been digesting as a media consumer is informing your game. And I want to pause for a second there, kind of clarify, because I was just on a live stream, Better with Bacon. A lot of fun. We got talking about the baptism. I'm not trying to be prescriptive here. I'm trying to be descriptive. Like I'm trying to explain what I think is actually happening at the table, and hopefully that informs you. So when you sit down to make decisions, you have a better understanding. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, you better have your own Appendix N. No, I'm saying you do have one. Just tap into it, figure out what it is. Like what you probably already do know. You probably have your likes. I know a guy I gamed with. He was in this campaign, loves anime. He just loves it. And we got talking a little while back, and I said, because he was planning on running something, and I was just like, dude, just lean into that. You like anime, just do it. Like, have fun with it. And I think if you tap into your Appendix N and you figure out what it is, and you are going to approach your projects, your campaigns with more passion, and your players are going to feel it. But more importantly, when you start talking to your players, you can start using some of these influences to help describe what it is that you're going to get going. And that, I think, will communicate to your players some consistent themes and some I guess expectations, because at the end of the day, game masters gets to have fun too, and when they have a campaign they're putting together, they want to make sure they get to see it come to life. There's nothing worse than when you're like, oh, I'm going to do gothic horror, and we're going to use Ravenloft, and a player shows up with a Conan the Barbarian type character who's totally out of place, and it quickly becomes a clown shoes type session, where everyone's kind of goofing when you, the game master, wanted something a little more serious, So I think having an Appendix N and understanding what your Appendix N is will help you communicate. And in this particular case, Lamentations of Elemental Evil was influenced by a lot of horror, obviously, but also dark fantasy type concepts and themes. I just take in media. Like I just love watching movies, and that, in fact, that's like one of my big influences on a lot of what I do. It's some movie I watch I think is really cool. For example, Wretched Folklore was influenced by a variety of things, everything from the old Kung Fu with David Carradine to Bone Tomahawk. If you've ever seen that movie, it's got a brutal scene in it. It's very brutal. But this Lamentations of Elemental Evil, I'm just going to show you a couple books. Well, the first one obviously is H.P. Lovecraft. Picked this up at a used bookstore a little while back. I love it. It's a bunch of his short stories, early stuff. For that, like creeping doom, we have in the center of the temple a demon goddess of fungi, right? Zuckmoy. So Lovecraft seemed to, I don't know how to put it. It just really is at the base of everything that I've done with this campaign. Everything from the cultists, and how I had a consistent theme for the cultists. Every time the players encountered members of the Zuckmoy cult, I would describe the exact same scent, which was like this kind of earthy peat type scent, like they're digging around in like dirt, and that really helped. The conflict between the church and the old ways, people who were more magical, and the elves, Those factions were heavily influenced by this book by Christopher Buhlman. I highly recommend it. Between Two Fires. This is got Lamentations written all over it. I would not be surprised if this guy's played the game. I would not be surprised. But this book is awesome. It's about a knight who's on the road to redemption, trying to save this girl who's got visions from God, and he's trying to get her to, I think, Paris. And they encounter some wacky, crazy situations. It's dark. It's very dark. So that dark political fantasy played a role in how I handled factions and Lamentations of Elemental Evil. And I already mentioned Jack Vance, Dying Earth, but that's just the weirdness of the magic, and that's a Lamentations thing too. So like all of that, I leaned into, and I didn't realize I was doing it initially. It wasn't until I started really meditating on like what it is that I've been doing that I realized, like, when I sit down and I'd say to myself, I'm going to run this game, or I want to run a game like this, I'm already like tapping into this thing. So for example, another example would be my in-person gaming crew. We're running Gods of the Forbidden North, and I immediately saw a couple of the cultures, the main cultures in there had real world I guess common traits with some like real world cultures, like the Haitians are like the Romans, very similar. And then you had with them being in the north, I'm like, we got to have Vikings, you know. So I'm like, I started looking into some of these old shows that I used to watch, like Vikings, like Spartacus, Blood and Sand, Rome, you know, and then just started sifting through some of my books and various other gaming supplements like RPG Pundit's Old School Companion 3 to add to that campaign to help kind of create and mechanically and enforce mechanically some of these themes of like Rome and the Vikings. And you can do that too, and I hope you are doing that. So don't be shy, you know, if you're like, oh man, I really like anime, you know, I'm going to use that as my, not just for developing themes, but also to help come up with your own homebrew rules to help enforce those themes. I do it. Just do it. Campaign I've been like tinkering with, nowhere near ready to find players, but I want to use Wretched New Flesh. It's like a cyberpunk setting with like eldritch horror. And I watched Akira, and I'm like, yeah, this is it. I want to have I want to have a motorcycle gang. I want to have weird body horror. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. So what is your Appendix N? So when you're asking yourself, what is it that I want to do? What kind of experience I want to create? Tap into that Appendix N and ask yourself, what is your Appendix N? What gets you jazzed about playing a game, running a game, making a character, and tap into that. And that will help spark creativity. I think a lot of people think ultimate freedom is the source of creativity, and I disagree with that 100%. I think when you sort of narrow yourself and say, okay, within this confine, like, what can I do with this? I'm going to do a cyberpunk setting, you know, inspired by Akira, and then just see what kind of jumps out of it, right? I'm going to do a Lamentations game that's more political. What happens, you know? So what is your Appendix N? Let me know in the comments. And please hit like and subscribe. And Friday nights, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard, 10 Central, Gary and I have the second watch. We'd love to see you there. It's a live stream. We get in depth about various topics. Please join the conversation. Love to have you. Until then, I'll talk to you later.